part of Scripture that was sort of the key for this series. And it's Isaiah 60. And it says, "Arise and shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. For behold, the darkness shall cover the whole earth, and deep darkness the people. And the Lord will arise over you, and his glory shall be seen upon you. The Gentiles, the people of the world who are not believers now, shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes all around and see. They all gather together. They come to you. Your sons shall come from afar. Your daughters shall be nursed at your side. Then you shall become radiant, and your heart shall swell with joy, because the abundance of the sea shall be turned towards you. The wealth of the Gentiles shall come to you." Yeah, that last bit's not bad, is it? The wealth. The Bible talks about this. That's not right. Take it back to my title. Thank you. The Bible talks about this transfer of wealth happening towards the end of days, from the unrighteous to the righteous. In other words, there's people who have had their hold on money and on wealth and on riches. They just haven't been good stewards of it. And God is looking for people who are good stewards of it, people who are going to increase his kingdom through finances. And there will be this transfer of wealth happening. And I want to talk to you today about, this was my provocation for today. When we had this storm the other week, Kelly done the survival thing of going out, buying hundreds of candles, bottles of water. I don't know why she bought water, like it's not as if we're going to run out of water over here. But bottles of water, and she bought lights and torches. And this is where I've got this from, this whole thing. In Psalm 119, this is our verse for today. Psalm 119, you'll know this, it's a really well-known scripture. Verse 105, can you throw it up for me? "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." A lamp to my feet and a light to my path. And what I was thinking, whenever I was preparing for today, I was remembering my camping days. And actually, we had a Bible study, and Kelly took the Bible study on Tuesday. And she was talking, she went into really deep stuff. Too deep. Way above my head. But she talked about the Rechabites in the Old Testament. And the Rechabites were nomads. They were a nomadic culture, so they did their law would have said, don't build a structure, instead live in tents and go around and just live out of tents your whole life. And that got me thinking about my camping days. Do you remember with Big John? And we would go up the moors, and I'm not talking camping like some of you do now, where there's facilities nearby where you can go to the toilet and you even have a shower block, and maybe even do this glamping, which is a load of nonsense, right? Glamping. Like, what's the point in that? I could stay at home and still have the same amenities, but I know some of you do it. But this was proper camping. This was, you need the toilet, dig a ditch. You've come up without your toilet paper, find a dock leaf. And whenever you're camping, there's a part in the middle of the night when you always find that you need the call of nature. But then you're weighing up the option, do I actually go out into the dark? Because it's not like, near a campsite where there might be a floodlight somewhere. It's pitch black. The only thing you'll see is stars. And you're weighing up, do I get up out of this sleeping bag and go for a wee in the dark? And, you'd fight it for maybe a couple of hours, and then you realise it's not getting any brighter, so you'd have to get up and do it. And I remember it was always a big thing for me going camping, getting a torch. I don't know what you were like as kids, but I loved torches. I could just play with them all day, and this isn't giving much of a shine, but I would love playing with a torch. And when Kelly bought this for that storm, I was in the elements. I don't know how to go like this, just right in front of the face, trying to make myself look scary. And
you don't need the torch.
Thank you. But I was doing that, and I was shining it on myself, and then I thought to myself, do you remember, you used to go camping, and you would get these torches, and usually it was out of Y-Spice, it was like a $1.99 job, and it would have a certain amount of light that would go out, and then there was these other ones who came up with floodlights, like, the big handheld ones, that would shine everywhere and light up the countryside. And not saying I felt inadequate, but there's something about the light that shines through you. There's something about the light that you carry and how it shines in the darkness. And I want to talk about 3 things that work against the light that God has created in you. 3 things to take away that light, to make it nullified, to make it less effective, to actually take you away from your destiny. Because it's telling us as believers to arise and shine. You've got light in you, everybody's got to see that light. And unfortunately, life gets in the way sometimes, and you may get that salvation experience where you feel fantastic, you feel like you're walking on cloud 9. Oh my goodness, the truth has finally been opened to me. I can go forth, I can shine, and then 3 weeks later, it's like, life's still hitting me with all the same stuff. And it kind of causes your light to not shine quite as bright. And the first one I want to talk about today, can you throw up my first point? Is distraction. So distraction, and it's kind of like, see, whenever we would go out, and we'd go out of our tent, and we'd have our torch in our hand, and we'd be going, obviously, for that call of nature, and we'd go out with the torch, and then because you're in the country, because you're in the wild, so to say, right, you would hear a noise. Now the noise could have been an animal, but straight away, instead of doing this here and trying to watch where you're walking, your torch would be doing this and going all around you to every little noise. And if you were like me, you kind of, I have a jump reflex and a scream reflex. And anybody who's went to watch a movie with me would know that I tend to jump a little bit or scream a little bit. The worst one was I was sitting with Graham watching a movie, and you're sitting out. Oh no, didn't try and hold your hand. The trailers had just finished and the movie was about to start, but when it comes up and it says like it's Warner Brothers or this, I jumped at that part. When the sign comes up, WB. So I have that jump reflex, so if I hear any noise, I jump at it and I'm distracted and I'm shining my light everywhere I go. Rather than at my feet. If the Word of God is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path, I need to shine it upon the path, but instead I get distracted at everything. There's a story in the Bible about David. And David was on the run from Saul. And so David had been anointed king. He had done mighty things. He was a mighty man of God. He had slain Goliath. He was a mighty man of war. He was really talented, and people would have sang, oh, Saul slays thousands, but David, he kills tens of thousands. He was really popular. But Saul was still king, and Saul hated David for this. So David had to go on the run. But he didn't go on the run on his own. He went on the run with 600 men. I don't know what that says, but he went on the run with 600 men. And they went out into the wilderness, out into the wild, away from Saul as far as they could, and they came across this guy who owned a lot of land called Nabal. And Nabal had a lot of land, but he had a lot of livestock as well. And he would have had hirelings, like people who could go out and actually work the livestock. And David decided to do a nice thing. He said, right, okay, we're in his land. What we'll do is we'll form a hedge of protection around everything this man has, so that he never loses his sheep, never loses a piece of cattle, never loses any livestock. Nothing he owns will come to loss. And he does this. And Nabal is obviously, accruing the riches because he's losing absolutely nothing. But it comes festival time. And then David says, right, okay, it's festival time. We need to have some food. So he sends a messenger to Nabal and he says, look, Nabal, David, my master David, has protected all that you own, every bit of property. We've been protecting it for a while now. We made sure you lost nothing. Can you give us some meat and some water and a little bit to have a feast? And Nabal basically turns and says, who's David to me? What's he got to do with me? So what, am I going to lose my food? Am I going to lose my investment? Am I going to give what I've slaughtered for myself to David? And he tells the servant where to go. David, this guy runs back to David and says, look, this is what he said. And David I can really identify with this. David got angry. And he says, right, I'm going to take 400 of my men. Every one of you, gird your swords, get ready. And I'm going to take 400 of my men, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to slaughter every male in Nabal's company. So not just Nabal, but every male there. And he gets ready and he does it and he goes down. But on the way he meets Nabal's wife, Abigail, because the servants around Nabal's workers come to Abigail and say, look, our master's a fool. David's done this really good thing for us, and now he's going to slaughter us, he's going to kill everybody here. And Abigail says, oh, do you know what, she's kind of having to look after everything her husband does. Her husband is known as a fool, and she gets up and she says, right, what we'll do, he asked for a little feast, we'll give him a big feast. And she loads up the donkeys with everything she can think of. You know, she gives him wine, she gives him bread, she gives him meat, and she loads it up and she takes it out to him. And she meets him halfway, and David is furious. And he's ready on a rampage to kill. I don't know about you. Have you ever just been going through your day and you think, I've got to get this done, or maybe this is my dream, this is what I want to do, and something distracts you. You get caught up in traffic. Somebody says something about you on Facebook. A friend doesn't say hello. These little tiny things cause distraction in you, and it takes you away, and it causes that light to be shined somewhere it's needlessly going. It needs to be lighting up your path, but instead of lighting up your path, you're distracted now. And David was distracted. His purpose wasn't sitting in Nabal's land. He was going to be king. Not just king, the anointed king of God, the man after God's own heart, the greatest king ever in Israel. That was his destiny. But he was getting distracted. And he was on his way, and Abigail meets him. And Abigail says to him, look, Lord, my husband is a fool. Don't gather your attention to a fool. Instead, here, take this. And she appeases him. And she stops him killing Nabal. Now, Nabal later dies anyway, but she stops him. God strikes Nabal dead. And that's a lesson in itself. Sometimes we get caught up as Christians, and the problem is we're born again, we have this light shining in us, we are fully full of the joy of God and the presence of the Lord, and then something happens. People get under your skin. Somebody has a go at you, has a pop at you, tries to bring you down. Somebody does something against you and your family, and it can cause distraction. But really, we need not get our light distracted on something over there when God is our vindicator, it says in the Bible, and He takes care of all that stuff. He ends up striking Nabal down. And as a turn of events, Abigail becomes one of David's wives. It's a little bit like, you know what, never watch EastEnders again. Instead, read the Bible. It's much more interesting. But you have this happen, right? You have all of this coming about. And it gets me thinking, we get distracted over the littlest things. I get distracted over the littlest things. You know, I'm preparing for a sermon, and then I find out that, oh no, somebody's not going to be doing this for me this week, or I've been let down here, or the car's done, or something's happened, and my mind wanders. Do you know, the enemy is constantly battling over your attention. And he will use anything to get it. You are born with light inside you, light that will radiate and attract the world. But if he can get you distracted from your walk, then that light gets shined everywhere and nobody can find you, because you're shining it like, you know, remember you used to do the discos with the torches? You're shining it like that. And it's very easy to get distracted, but this is a ploy of the enemy. Because if the enemy can get you away from your destiny, then he doesn't need to really worry about the people that will come, because you're not effective as a Christian if you're not focused on your walk. I have to say, there's so much in this idea of being distracted. This comes back to the dream I had before we opened this church. And there was distraction at every turn. Distraction on my walk at every turn, and it is so easy to get distracted, but you've got to keep your eyes on Jesus. You've got to keep your eyes focused on your goal, focused on your destiny. You know, if you're training for a fight, you have to become really single-minded. In fact, you could say selfish. But when you're training for a fight, you know that you have to get up at 6 a.m. and go for your run. You know then you have to eat a certain way. You know that you have to do your training in the afternoon, your training at night. And you've got this regimen to keep you focused and keep you on your path. But what happens? And it happens every time. Every time I was fighting, it happened every time. I'm on a diet, somebody's having the Chinese. I'm on a training regime, and they're saying, oh, do you know what, we should maybe just go out for the night and, let's go party or let's go away. I go, no, I'm training. There's a walk that you have before you, and it is so easy to get distracted off that walk and shine your light any other way than the path before you. But I'm saying to you that that's the plan of the enemy, and you've got to keep yourself focused. You've got to keep looking at Jesus. Do you know, think of the Wright brothers. Like the Wright brothers who invented the airplane. If they got distracted, like they had nothing really supporting them. If they had started to get distracted about what people said, oh, you don't have a degree, I'm not able to do it. What, you only have a bicycle shop? That's not good enough. Oh my goodness, you're trying to make things fly. Are you mental? See, sometimes the things that people say are the biggest distraction of all. And just like when you step out of your tent in the darkness and you hear a sound here, there, and everywhere, it's what somebody says about you that distracts you and pulls you away from your goal and your destiny. Does that make sense? Because I'm saying to you right now, see if you can stay focused. You know, we're living in an age right now where it's a millennial age, and I feel bad for the millennials, right? Because you kind of get to this stage, and I see it so much, that you try something, you think that you can aspire and dream and go for the stars, but whenever you get there, whenever you go for it and you hit against a brick wall or something comes against you, you fall right back down to earth and think, oh, maybe that wasn't for me. You know, think about the Wright brothers again. The Wright brothers were fighting against the law of the universe, the law of gravity, that could hold them down and keep them still. And the first time they try and take off their plane, boom, it comes back down to the ground. Have you ever tried something and it's failed and you thought, right, that's it. I can't do it. Because every time I try, I just get knocked back. And sometimes you have to realize that when you're walking this path, the Christian walk isn't just constantly forward, forward, forward. You will go forward, and then the enemy will distract you, and you will be brought back slightly. But the same principle applies to what the Wright brothers had to do to get that plane to fly to you and your Christian walk. They realized to get the plane to fly needed more force. They needed to take a bigger run-up. They needed to go faster to get it to lift. And it's the same with you. On your Christian walk, you find you're going forward. Things are going great. Oh no, somebody said something. I'm back into my old way of going. Oh, I'm going forward. I'm ready to go for God. But no, you know what? I'm distracted. I'm going to go out and I'm going to party. And you find that happens. So they take the principle of what they did, the two Wright brothers, what they did was they realized that it's the force that causes them to break through the barrier of that law of gravity. It's the force, the speed, the run-up that they take that causes them to break through that law of gravity. If you want to break through the barriers that the enemy sets before you, you've got to stay focused, but you've got to just run at it with more force. Every time he knocks you back, don't be going, right, that's it, I'm deflated, I'm done. Instead, get up and go faster at it. Every time you hit a brick wall, just go, right, next time I got to take a bigger run up to get through that wall. Do you know, we get knocked back and we think that's it. And that can be the biggest distraction of them all. But the problem is that if we get knocked back and we think that's it, then the enemy has won. He's not won your salvation, but he's made you a kind of useless Christian, someone who's dimming their light and letting their light go not the way Christ has made it, to shine like a city on a hill, but rather be dimmed for the nations. Can you throw up my second point for me there, Alyssa?
Is it the downgrade one?
Downgrade, yes. I've been thinking about this, and these are the 3 Ds that cause you to lose your light. Now, your light will never completely be extinguished, but to be seen by others. The first one is to get distracted by the world and end up, how many Christians do you know get into fights with absolutely everybody still? Rather than focusing on God, they're fighting and they're still talking about things that happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They're still worrying about problems behind them. But the other one, the next one, is downgrading who they are. Did I give you another scripture there? There's a guy, Gideon, in the Bible. And Gideon, I can again identify with. Did I?
Well, what's the...
Just go on down and say it.
There's scriptures here, but I don't know.
We'll just flick down. I'll take. Gideon was somebody who didn't really believe in himself. No. Well, don't worry. I'll tell you anyway. Gideon didn't really believe in himself. It should be Samuel. Did I give you Samuel?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, not that one. Doesn't matter. Gideon didn't really believe in himself. Gideon was... He said to God that whenever the angel of the Lord appeared before him, and the angel of the Lord had a destiny for Gideon, Gideon had to rise up and basically defend Israel against everyone else. And Gideon says, but I'm just the lowest of the low. In fact, my clan is the lowest clan, and I'm the lowest of my clan. And the angel of the Lord turned to Gideon and says, no, you're a mighty man of God, a mighty man of valor. You see, we have a thing in our head that when we start shining the torch at ourselves and we start shining it in our own face, sometimes it can show up inadequacies. Who am I to preach? Oh my goodness, what did I do on Tuesday night 2 years ago? Oh, who am I to preach? I'm lacking in confidence, I'm lacking in self-confidence, I'm lacking in self-esteem. Who am I to get up and speak? The devil says all these things to you and condemns you. And Revelation 12:10 tells you that he is the accuser of the brethren. And the way he accuses you is he says, do you know what? Christina, you're not enough. Dylan, you're not enough. What, you're not worthy? Oh my goodness, the bad thoughts that you had about that person 2 days ago, some Christian you are. And the devil will constantly be accusing the brethren. Why? Because he wants you to think like how Gideon started to think. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. Lord, you may have a destiny, but you've got the wrong person. It's not me. Moses kind of thought the same thing when God came to him. And Moses was too afraid to speak and said, what, do you want me to go and speak to Pharaoh? But I have a stutter. I'm not good enough. And we all do this. And what we do is we downgrade who we are in Christ. If you're born again today, it is not you and your physical self. It is the Spirit that lives inside you that makes you amazing. Properly amazing. I listened to an interview with T.D. Jakes. Do we all know who T.D. Jakes is? Big preacher, big deep voice like this. Brilliant preacher. I absolutely love him. And I was listening to him talk, and he was saying about how man has such a special gift. But we kind of downgrade it. Like if I'm starting a business and I say, I can't start a business because I don't have what they have. I don't have enough capital. I don't have enough know-how. I don't have the ability here. We downgrade everything that we've got, and we say we don't have enough. And he said that if you look at he went to safari one year, and if you look at the animals in the jungle, he says, the cheetah senses danger. What does it do? It runs. Because God made it so that it could outrun any enemy. The elephant senses danger. What does it do? It throws its weight around. Because it's big, and it's bigger than most other animals. The lion senses danger and it roars at the top of his voice. The monkey senses danger and it climbs a tree. The eagle senses danger and it spreads its wings and lifts on high and it soars. So what does man have? Man has imagination. He has a brain. He has the ability to turn something inordinate, something normal, into something amazing. But instead, the devil will come along and say, nah, you're not good enough. You can't do that. And he gets you to downgrade yourself from DEFCON 1 down to DEFCON 5, saying you're not good enough. But instead you're walking about, like Luke 10 says, with nuclear power inside you. Power to trample on serpents, to cast out demons, to heal the sick, to raise the dead. You have that power inside of you, but the devil gets you to downgrade it, gets you to say, no, maybe the preacher has that power, maybe that prophet has that power, maybe the person who's really walking with God has that power. But I had a drink 2 nights ago, and that means that I'm not a real Christian. So if I'm not a real Christian, I don't have the power to pray over someone. And the devil has his opportunity there, he has his inroad there, and he gets you to downgrade the power that God invested in you down to a neutral sign. And when he does that, he goes, great, he's no threat. But instead, this is what T.D. Jakes said. He said, look, what does God give man? Does God turn around when you pray and give you, if you pray for a table, does God go, here's a table? If you pray for a chair, does God go, here's a chair? No, God gives you a tree. God gives you a tree in your life. And he says, look about for trees in your life, because I've given you an imagination to turn that tree into something spectacular. But instead, we get downgraded so much that we simply look at it and go, all I've got is trees. All I've got is this. All I've got is that. Do you know, I said a couple of weeks ago, you are the modern day Ark of the Covenant. You walk around with nuclear power inside of you. Holy Spirit driven power that cannot be damped out, cannot be put out, and cannot be beaten. But you listen to this accuser of the brethren and you go, yeah, maybe that's true for one of those big preachers in America, or maybe that's true, back in the time of Acts, but it's certainly not true of me. Who am I? What does the book of Psalms say? You're fearfully and wonderfully made. Don't let the enemy downgrade you and extinguish or dim your light. And that brings me on to my next part, my next point. And she might just shows you how short staff I am. It's dim. Not to dim your light. We kind of do this, and this is what I was talking about with the torch. Those guys who came out, and I had a torch up, and maybe should give a tiny little light like this. I don't know if this is annoying anybody's eyes. It's not a very strong torch. And then you got those guys coming out with the big canisters that could light up the whole of the hillside. God wants to light up more of where you're walking. He wants to light up more of His will for you. He wants to illuminate what He's got in store for you. But quite often what we do is we let our light be dimmed. We let our light be dimmed. We let it be extinguished. We let it be put out. They would walk about with these big torches that like they were ushering in aircraft, and I was always in awe of them, thinking, look at you. You went to a big shop, and you got something really expensive. But they were fantastic because they would light up everywhere. And instead, I thought, look at my wee light that doesn't light up much. And sometimes we worry about that. We worry about our light being dimmed, and that's a plan of the enemy. And I want to look at this scripture. And I know I'm over time. Scripture in Romans, I give you. Romans 5:19. See, I said to God, and I prayed to God this week, how do we keep our light strong? How do we make it from this dim wee thing to something so bright and so big that it cannot be ignored? How do we take a dim light that's just like a wee candle and make it into something so big that it attracts everyone? The lights, it's about the amount of lumens it has, how bright it shines. And this is what I got. For as by one man's disobedience many were made sinners, so also by one man's obedience many will be made righteous. Now, the key word there is obedience. Now, if you go into the Hebrew, the word obedience was slightly different. It was command, it was obey. It was do as you're told. It was you do this, you get this. But if you go into the Greek, it's a slightly different word. That word obedience means hearken to, listen to. Do you know, there are a lot of Christians right now that you might hear God, but are you really listening? Listening is your obedience. when you start listening to what God actually has to say and start taking on board what He's saying to you. How many of us have heard from God and went, nah, no thanks? You feel that provocation in your spirit. God tells you, go and speak to that person and tell them about Jesus. And you go, don't really want to. I'll just pretend you're not talking to God. I'll pretend it was just myself talking to myself, and I'll ignore it and I'll just push it away. We can hear God, but we don't really listen. But the more we listen, it's like a power source to this torch. What it does is it changes something with maybe 160 lumens into 2,000 lumens. It brightens up because God realizes that, my goodness, this person here, he is listening to me. And the more he listens to me, he is a good steward of what I'm saying. I'm going to keep talking to him. He tells me to... What was... Thomas? Do you remember Thomas from Exchange? I remember him telling us that he was told to go up to one person and say, God told me to give you this 76 pence. And he felt really provoked. Well, I've got a fiver in my pocket, should I not give her the fiver? And God kept saying to him, no, it's the 76 pence. And he argued to and fro with God, and then eventually he went and he gave this woman 76 pence, and that was the exact amount she was short on her bus fare. And she was waiting to get the bus, but she was 76p short. And when he told her that it was God that told me, that was a seed. That's something God wants you to sow. God tells you, you know what, somebody's suffering, you've got to go to them. Yeah, but who am I? Who am I to talk to that person? Who am I to help that person? I'd be best leaving it up to someone who's qualified. You know, none of us are qualified. None of us are. None of us are worthy. But God chooses the unqualified. God chooses someone who doesn't think that they're worthy and says, if you listen to me, I will use you. And the more you listen, the more the light inside of you will shine. And the bigger it shines, the more effective you are for me. See, there's three things, and I'm closing now, the three things that the enemy wants to use to keep you from shining bright. He wants to distract your light, get you out of that tent and shining in every noise and everything that's said on social media and everything that's said about you. He wants you shining everywhere else. He wants you to downgrade who you are, to shine the torch on yourself and to see your own flaws. What, you're the righteousness of God in Christ? Really? You? Did you not swear at the dog? Did you not get fed up with the kids and run straight in and grab a drink? Did you not pull your hair out because your spouse is annoying you so much? How could you be the righteousness of God? And he wants you to downgrade who you are, so that that amazing power that God has put in you is now null and void. And when he does that, he wants you to then stop listening. Because if you stop listening, even though you're hearing, if you stop listening and stop hearkening to his voice, then your light will gradually dim. It'll never extinguish, but it'll dim. And he doesn't want you like a city of lights on top of a hill shining bright for everybody to see. He wants you dim and useless. We're at a time now where Christians should be standing up in a massive way for this world. There is so much darkness covering the land, and we've seen it recently in attacks against this church. And I know from other pastors, they're having attacks. Because what the devil's trying to do is trying to say, right, you know, okay, you're going to church, but as long as you're sitting there, you're of no worry to me. But if I can get that light inside you to dim slightly, if I can get you to downgrade who God has created you to be, and if I can get you distracted from your purpose, then, all right, you know, I'm winning at this game of chess. Now, what I want you to focus on this week is see whatever he throws at you to distract you, to downgrade you, or to dim that light. Jesus 2,000 years ago won. The battle is won. So even though you may be taking a few punches at the minute, even though things may be coming against you and hurting you, focus on the fact that the victory is already yours. You don't have to worry about the punch or the kick that comes against you, because the victory is already yours. Don't let yourself be downgraded. Don't let your light be dimmed. And do not be distracted. Keep yourself focused on Jesus. Keep your eyes on Him. And keep going forth. Because I guarantee you, see the giftings in this church? It actually makes me shiver. The amount of people I see here with giftings and how they are with people. How they are with kids. How they are with music. How they are even with teaching. And it's giftings. I guarantee right now that hell is shaking at the thoughts of this church rising up and shining. But it's up to you. I can't do it for you. All I can do is tell you the truth. I can't do it for you. Are you going to rise up and shine?
Our Redeemer.